That's a V1 of 105, VR of 115, and let's just have a V2 of 125. It's a little high, but that's okay. And then you deselect VT, we don't need that. Alright, so now we got the V speeds. Now look over on your primary flight display. You will actually see as you put them in, they appeared up on your screen there as well.
Right.
So your speed schedule, although we're not going to fly with it, has been set and is now in there correctly. Alright, you can get back into the home menu on the DTC. Now we're going to build a flight plan.
So that other thing, performance, I was just curious. Oh, FLC. Okay.
That's to set your speed schedule.
Oh, right, okay.
So over the flight plan. And we're going to start by going direct to Molly intersection. So add waypoint and then just type in Molly. OLLY. Then enter. Alright.
Southwest USA.
Yeah, we want to use that, not the Philippine one.
Not going there yet.
Correct. Alright, then add another one.
Let's see.
Let's go to, as you can see, we're going to shoot the approach. Let's go to PRISO, P-R-I-S-O. Bingo. Alright, then let's go ahead and add another waypoint that says KELP. Alright, very well. And go ahead and highlight procedure on the left of PRISO. And let's do an approach. And we're going to do the ILS to runway 22, but instead of vectors, which it defaults to, go ahead and highlight vectors. And let's go to a whole initial, because that you can see down on the approach plate is out here. So that will be the PRISO is inside of that. If we don't put in whole, it's going to do all sorts of other transition, and it may also do all the other transitions anyway. And go ahead and load that, not load and activate, but just load that. Bingo. Okay, it says not approved, we understand it, we get it. And when you're ready, just go ahead and move the throttle up just a little bit and the airplane will spin around as we're currently pointing south.
Right. It'll turn to
yeah,
miles.
and it's not like going to be going nuts here, so just throttle up just a little bit. Watch the airspeed indicator. And instantly we captured altitude all the way up to 200 knots. And you can see it goes yellow because we still have spoiler. I mean, it's just small corrections. It's kind of, yeah, let it just settle. Around 200 knots is fine. And now you can see we're flying. We're now going direct to Molly. What I'd like for you to do is zoom in a click over here. Watch your MFD, and you can see that it's now spinning around, almost around, and it's going to recapture since we were pointing south, if you wish.
Correct.
It's going to recapture and go towards.
Right turn to the north.
Yeah.
No, actually intercept
It'll intercept that, and as it does that, you can see that the HSI will also come around. And so, as far as how it works, is really how it is and how you will see it in the airplane. The same exact thing is going to happen. The same indications on your display unit number 2 or the MFD will be the same. You can see now it's starting to intercept the preloaded airway.
Right.
Airplane is going to turn, and you don't really have to focus on the flying part. Now you could, if you wanted, you could take off the autopilot and fly with a joystick, but that's not why we're here. We're here for the messing with switches, how the airplane is going to act. And the good thing is we have motion freeze. Right now we're in the unit of 1, but I can actually go in here on the demo controls other, and I can actually put in a time scale all the way up till I think 13, where 1 is real time, and then I can double it and triple it and so far.
What do you mean by that? Oh, so 2 would mean like be twice as slow?
No, twice as fast. It goes faster. So you can see turn right to 0.95. So I don't know if you saw that, but right now,
for a second,
yeah. So now we're turning, it's smart turning over Molly to get to the next waypoint, which is going to intercept. However, instead of using the speed schedule of 1, which is real time, 2 is twice as fast and whatnot, that right now in 1 we are seeing the moving map as per how it would be in real time.
Right, this is real time.
Correct. The map will scroll. However, we can go to flight freeze by merely just throttle back to idle. We're going to do that a couple of times here because of what we're trying to achieve. So now you can see it has captured the next waypoint, and then what we're going to do is we're going to tell it instead of go direct to aguas, preso, and then smart turn to go into aguas, then go out and do the approach. What I'd like to do is scroll up here a little bit, and you do that by move the cursor over and then do it like so. Now I want you to capture preso here and then highlight that. And then go direct to and then activate direct preso. Boom. Now
so
everything goes away. Well, see, it does the same, but instead of go to aguas and then back outside after it hits Walter, that's the sim confusion.
Oh, yes.
Is the approach chart here said no procedure turn, that we can legally do it. So that's exactly what we're going to do. A couple of things, you'll get some audible warnings, and then you will also see a couple of things popped up. TOD, time of descent. We have V-NAV in here, so it will tell us on that pre-schedule where V-NAV is, and so we'll play with that in just a second here. I'm going to reposition the camera. So a couple of things we can set up while we're waiting, and you can see we're en route, is we're not cleared for the approach yet, so we can't arm the approach mode. But what we are going to do is go ahead and set in the minimums of 4144, I believe it is. I think it's, so we'll set 4200, 4149. So let's go ahead and go up to the altitude alert and click on the arrow down rather, and just keep clicking until you see 4200 is probably okay. You can't hold, you just gotta click like a rabid dog here, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't overuse your mouse here, but I guess.
No, that's all right. Okay, so now the minimums are set because we're going to use V-NAV in here. You could, of course, also just set like what is it? It tells you 6600 till preso, and then 5900 till aguas, 5100 to Walter. But we're going to set in the lowest minimum of 4149 and fly the V-NAV portion until it intercepts the glide slope. So go ahead and zoom in a little bit more. Click on here and zoom in over there. Give it one click.
Click there. What am I? I'm just zooming. That's
and zoom in one more. There you go. Now we're just sitting here waiting for the next thing that's going to happen is the controller is going to say you're cleared for the approach. So, 9 Charlie Hotel, you are cleared for the approach, which prompts you to do, well, if you haven't done the approach checklist.
Vertical track.
Okay, it's that also here clues you that it's becoming alive. V-NAV over here, and then the other thing that's going to do is you're going to hit approach. So mouse over there and hit approach, and this should change. Not yet, but you'll see a LOC and a GS is now armed. The other thing we need to do, since we're going to fly the V-NAV portion, and you can see that it is in fact alive, is we're going to arm V-NAV. So go ahead and hit V-NAV. Now you could stay up here if you wanted to, so glide slope intercept, but let's play with the electronics, V-NAV, and you can see we're still captured at 8,000 feet. But because we're so high, you can see TOD is fairly laid out, or fairly far out. If we had descended to 6,600 feet, TOD would have been a little bit further in. So the cool thing about using the V-NAV in this airplane is it'll watch out for you. Now you can see we captured V-path. It's going to start descending.
Right, it's going to do the...
You don't need to do anything with the throttle or anything, but it's going to
just
bring the aircraft down towards the path that will, I guess, put you on the localizer at a time that you can intercept the localizer and subsequently the glide slope.
Erling, where does it show that I hit the V-NAV, but where does it show that I had actually...
It changed from ALT to path.
To path, okay.
And then you're in V-path mode, thus the letter V, and ASL altitude selected. So this is our hard deck. However, as we know with ILSs, it will take you through the minimum. We just have that set in. Actually, what we'll do is go ahead and click, and since once we get towards the final approach course, we'll go ahead and set the missed approach altitude as well. But you can see now that we are
Starting return.
turning inbound. So we're turning inbound. Next waypoint is Aguas, and we're still descending. You can see everything is what you have, what you want. You're an FMS. It will not go into LOC before you pass the final approach fix, or in this case, it'll get close to Walter.
Right.
Inside, established on the inbound, on the localizer, and then it'll switch you over, and a lot of things will happen. So now go ahead and, like you would fly the normal airplane, take a look what it's doing here. It's telling you, hey, I'm going to stop at 59, but we'll plan to do that about the time that it gets to Aguas, in 5 seconds, and so far. Now you see it momentarily captured 5,900 feet, but look, boom, boom, switch to localizer. It's staying at 5,900 feet. Here comes our glide slope needle in.
Right.
And when it gets down in the center,
It'll start to...
and you can also see we went green, it captured the glide slope, and now we're on the localizer. Because of that, we have now captured the glide slope, and it's going to now descend down to 4,200 feet. So what I'd like for you to do right before we get to the final approach fix here, we have about 1.6 to Walter. Go ahead and throttle all the way to idle. All the way to idle. Bingo. Now we're in flight freeze. We have frozen the simulator. So what I'd like for you to do is take a look at what you got on your two screens.
On this one or over here? Oh, these two.
Yeah, just take a look, glance, position-wise, where we are. We're about, it says 1.2 miles from Walter, which is our final approach fix.
Where's that at? The 1.2 miles. Where is it showing that?
Over here.
Ah, okay.
Okay, go ahead and click, zoom in a little bit, give it about 2 clicks. Let's see what we get. That's much better. Okay, so now you can see that we have, what should I say, a setup that you feel comfortable with. You are in green. It switched you to localizer. You're in localizer captured with the glide slope captured. The autopilot is on along with the yaw damper, and we're sourcing the left hand side. So everything now is set up for us to shoot this approach. One household item we got to change the minimums to the go around, and they always give you 6,500. It's a little bit different speed schedule here, but go ahead and click on the altitude, arrow up, and then set it to 6,500. That way our missed approach altitude is set so that when we go around, it is all ready to for the pre-selected altitude. So what I want you to do now is go ahead and start throttling up again, and do it slowly. And 150 knots fine. We can buy a little time. Nice and easy. You can actually fly it at 50 knots, but 150 is fine. Somewhere in that's fine. That's fine. 120 knots is good.
All right.
Yeah. That's fine. Just leave it there. It's fine. Sounds good. So 150 knots. Look like you nailed that. Now take a look. Next track. We're now flying over Volta. Is coming inbound on your final segment of the approach. Now we got to start thinking about the go around. Remember, there was a couple of things we needed to do with the go around. We will go ahead and suspend the flight right before the missed approach point. Go ahead and zoom in some more.
Okay.
That's good. All right, now move the cursor. You can leave it there as long as you know where it is. So be ready here in a second. We're now at 4,840. We're going to get a couple of bingo warnings here. We're going to get a ground proxy. It's going to tell us we're too low with the gear and with no flaps and all that sort of thing. But
that's just because we don't have that.
That's just the way it goes. Right. Correct.
Right.
All right. So we're about 400 for minimums. We're going to take this thing all the way down to minimums because of the way the sim is, actually to almost touchdown. Okay. So what I want you to do.
500. Too low. Terrain.
Just hit that OK over here. Very good.
Too low.
400.
All right, that's the altitude, radar altitude calling out.
Too low. Terrain.
And that's fine, just
300.
ignore that.
Too low. Terrain.
Okay, go ahead and throttle all the way to idle.
200.
Very good. Now we suspended. Actually, yeah, that's fine. We can do that in a second again. So we are right now, it had just given you a warning that we are arriving at. Actually, it gave you the warning and it took the warning away. So a couple of things that has happened in your display I want you to take a look at as we're in flight freeze here. Take a look at the layout on your MFD. What you will see is you have a couple different altitudes. The aircraft is at the close to the predetermined missed approach point of runway 22, right. And you can also see you have a next box over there that says 4,600 feet.
Yes.
That's a new missed approach point that came up here as it's starting to, well, get ready to sequence towards your missed approach. So it will take you straight down the runway till 4,600 feet, hoping that you will tell it to climb, which you will need to do, and then it will begin a straight climb to 4,600 feet before it will go on to the missed approach
So
course.
if we were in the weather and we got down to this altitude and we had to shoot the mist, then the airplane will want to go to 4,600.
Correct, going straight away as a safety. Absolutely. So what we're going to do here in a second is we're going to start that missed approach procedure. And what I'd like for you to do is we need to do a couple things when it does sequence to the mist. We got to go up here and we got to go from approach to nav. We're also going to go down, actually the first thing we need to do is push vertical speed and nose up. You got to hit the nose up about 10 clicks because we're going to start to climb. First thing we need to do is make the aircraft begin to climb, and then we would need to, you will see a suspense button we need to uncheck, and we need to hit this twice. It's going to go from lobe 1, lobe 2 into FMS. I'll talk you through it. And then you hit nav up here. All right, so go ahead and throttle up. I don't care, 100 knots is fine. Somewhere in there where we can see it slowly is fine.
Too low, dear.
That's good. Just leave it like that. It's fine. 100 knots. All right, so arrival at waypoint. We're not there yet, but you can see we're getting very close.
To the low gear.
And here, boom, suspend. Go ahead and throttle to idle. There you go. Now let's have a look at what we got. What just happened is we reached the runway 22 missed approach point. Technically, we're just about 100 feet above the runway or so. But more importantly, let's take a look what just switched here. We got a suspend button here.
Right, it actually shows up.
It shows up as a button that we would need to get rid of. So what I'd like to do before we release the airplane is I'd like for you to go ahead and click on up here. So the first thing is vertical speed. Look what changes. Takes you out of the glide slope. And 0 feet per minute. Let's go ahead and click up 10 times for 1,000 feet. You got to click on the wheel actually.
Up right here.
Yeah, and see on the wheel. Yeah, click. There you go. And then you get the white bar. And each time you click that, you get 100 feet per minute.
Oh, I see. Okay. Right.
1,000. There we go. So now the airplane is set to go. Then let's go over here and click. This is of course co-pilot would do that.
So clicking twice.
That takes you into log 2.
Log 2.
And click again, and takes you into FMS. So now we have gotten it out of tracking the localizer, which would have just kept it going straight down the runway, right?
Correct.
Which we don't want to do. It also took you into roll because, no, wait a minute, so anytime you change the modes, it defaults to roll. So that's why we got to go up here and push nav. Bingo. Now it changed from roll to FMS, and that means now we're going to track correctly, with one exception. We still now need to go down and tell it suspend the approach and track on the FMS. So hit that button underneath the suspense. Bingo. Now we're set. Now go ahead and go back to 150, 200 knots. And take a look at what happens over on your MFD. See how the airplane is tracking outbound?
Yeah, it's
You see we're climbing.
Right.
And as soon as we get to 4,600 point, and that box will continue to move out. We got 200 feet to go.
That's what I was going to ask you. It's not happening at that exact point.
No.
It's just a question of it. Okay.
And we're almost there. 20 feet to go. And here we go. Now we're climbing in a left turn towards the El Paso VOR, where the airplane is going to set up the hold, because that's where the approach is programmed to do. So now what you need to do is have a look at your instruments, make sure that we're now tracking towards the hold, which of course you can see. You don't need to move anything.
I was going to say, I don't know if I could.
No, that's fine. You'll see it in a second. It'll come around. This is actually good for you to kind of follow the tracking of the aircraft, and then we're climbing also to 6,500 feet, and everything should be good for now. Yeah, so in the missed approach towards the holding area, and we just got the 1,000 foot warning to our altitude. That was 1,000 feet to 6,500. And you can see that now it's tracking out. You can zoom out a little bit if you want. Just click one on the zoom out over there.
I think it's this one.
Yeah, bingo. And then now you can see, that should be all right.
Yeah.
You can see your holding pattern start to emerge.
I see. Right, that VOR is there.
You've got 400 feet to go. And you can also look up here, it's flashing 6,500. altitude select, and we captured 6,500. Next thing is, as it levels, it will go ALT is now locked in. And of course now you'd make the call to
pass approach.
yeah, and so far and all that stuff. So, but here you can see what's going on, and this is how you would see it in the airplane if we would go out and do it in about 10 minutes.
Teardrop edge.
Yeah, it looks like it'll do a parallel. And we're starting to turn, a little bit of a smart turn here. And you can see how the next leg becomes magenta, the next active legs, and I don't know if you noticed that, but if you look over on the GTC, you can actually also see that it changing with the corresponding colors on the GTC as well.
So you see how passive.
Correct.
What do you think of parallels when you come in like that? I always thought it's easier to do the teardrop because you don't have so many turns. I was just curious. I don't know.
You know
like,
what?
I always remember
As far as the airplane, I have no clue. I don't. You can go in and look under the holding definition. If you want to know more, you can see it's in holding, and
I was just curious what you thought. Because when you come in like that, you could do the teardrop.
we're not quite established yet. But you'll see once we establish, you'll be able to pull up holding definitions, and you can see in there what it is doing. But so now you can see it says turn right to 360 degrees.
That's really great how it says it to you, but it's still in the autopilot. But
So if you want to take it off of freeze here again and just throttle back up to 200 knots.
200. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
So you'd like to use the north up. You could actually set it where you would go to the actual show the heading.
Yeah, I like north up because
Right.
that's the airplane tends to behave better. There's a little bit of a flicker sometimes
Oh, yeah.
between north up. I think it might be a software issue, but
interesting.
north up I always fly with. But there is heading up, and I think you can put track up as well. But I like north up for situational awareness myself. And you can also see, here's your hold inbound course set. So in all reality, the FMS flying the airplane on autopilot is now going to give you that intercept, and as that intercept, it'll come over here.
Right,
And,
so 260, and then it's just showing the nautical miles from the VOR.
Correct.
And it actually says suspend there, doesn't it?
It says suspend. The same thing happens here as you programmed it to something. It's not an approach this time. You're in a hold, but you programmed it to a hold. So to get out of the hold, well, you can go in and say remove hold, leave hold, but you can also simply, what we do many times is we just, so as you will see in a little bit, we're going to go back and shoot the approach, and this time we're going to make it, and you will see that by removing the hold, if you've got to watch if that does not go away, you got to deselect it. Now you can see we're coming close to the inbound course. In 7-6 seconds, it's going to turn you. Watch what happens to the CDI. Is going to go towards the center. The flight director is going to command a left-hand turn, and as you pass over El Paso, you can report that you're then established in the hold.
Where are we, 9?
And then it's going to sit there and literally hold until it runs out of gas. Bingo. It's amazingly accurate. How, I mean, it really is phenomenal that they've been able to give this technology to us to fly it.
Then we make our call here, pass approach. What is it, 9 Charlie Hotel?
9 Charlie Hotel. So the next thing we're going to do here is you are now in the holding.
Okay.
What we're going to do is they will clear you for another approach again. So what we're going to do is go ahead and scroll back up to, let's just call it let's see what we have as far as the waypoints here. We'll take a look. And we'll call it pre-so. That should be fine. So go ahead and scroll up in the cage, because it's going to be locked in here. Just click while you hold.
Click the...
Yeah, click the mouse and then just scroll down. You got to click and hold.
Push this button and...
Nope.
Oh.
You click somewhere on this slide here. Click and hold, and then you can scroll up and down. All right, and you want to go to pre-so. So you click pre-so, D for direct. Okay, and before you do it, let's have a look. Go ahead and first zoom out. It may not let you zoom out. Out. Yeah, it does. So there you go. So we get an idea of what's going on. So now go ahead and activate direct pre-so, bottom right. Bingo. Look what it did for you. It took away the suspense, gave you a new course that's going to take you up to pre-so, and then we're going to go back in, do the whole thing again.
Very good, yes. Selected.
You can, when they clear you for the approach, you obviously would set minimums in there. You should set minimums.
Should, okay,
I mean, yeah, you always should. So go ahead and click over on the altitude select, down to 4,200 feet. All right, very good. Aircraft is now on the left-hand turn, and the ATC says you're cleared for the approach. What does that prompt you to do? The first thing you need to do, hit the approach. Before you click, look what changes. Go ahead. You get LOC, armed, and glide slope armed.
And the VASL stands for vertical approach.
No, V stands for V-NAV. Since you have selected V-NAV, if you would deselect V-NAV, you just get ASL, which means altitude selected.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of a combined vassal or something, you know. But it tells you two different things. And also you can see vassal is now captured, and it momentarily captured at 5,900 feet. If you want, throttle back to about 150 knots or 120, just a little bit. That's good right there. It's perfect. All right, so you can see it captured 5,900 feet because now it also switched you over to green. And the localized, the glide slope needle is coming alive. And glide slope is now captured. It's going to fly inbound on the localizer, on a glide slope, all the way down. You can go ahead and zoom in one click if you want. Perfect now. You can see we're about, exactly 0.9 miles from Valter on the final approach course, on the localizer, on the glide slope, 5,300 descending. And the next thing is, again, you will see, you can give it one more click of the zoom. 1,000 to your minimums. That is your 1,000-foot call to 4,200. Now that usually will tell you, okay, I get it, I'm 1,000 feet, and you can now tune your 6,500. But let's just leave that for now so you can kind of analyze what's going on here. 800 to minimums. All is well. You can see the airport map, and again, this is what you would see in the airplane. Give it one more click on the zoom. Bingo. All right, we're 500 to minimums. Those are the standard calls, 1,500, and then if we're in IMC, a 100 prior to minimum call as well. You can now see the runway 22 missed approach point, your 4,600 feet, which is you go around. So the next thing that's going to happen,
500.
okay, is you're going to throttle to idle as we land. You can go ahead and click, get rid of that.
To low gear.
And if it comes up again, just inhibit it, because it's going to yell at you all the way down.
To the low
Are you inhibiting
gear.
it?
All right, you're 100 feet above minimums, 300 radar altitude.
To the low gear.
Okay, that's fine. Just keep it there.
200 to the low gear.
Okay, put your hand on the throttle, but don't move it yet. And then go to just smack it to
Low
idle
gear.
when it says arriving at waypoint and you get the suspense. Bingo, idle. There you go. We now froze the airplane, and you can see we have now arrived again at the missed approach point. And if we were going to go missed, we would have to observe the same four scenarios, but you are actually on the ground now.
Can we discuss those just again, just so it's a good
Yeah,
review?
well,
So-
let's go ahead and go minimum, go around. So the first thing you need to do, again, in your minimum, is you need to go and go to vertical speed on your FGC, on your flight guidance control panel.
Vertical speed.
Bingo. And then click it up to 1,000 feet a minute. That's 300, 400 and so far.
Didn't really count it right, I don't think, but anyway.
You're at 900 feet per minute.
Where does
So-
it show it? Oh, okay, great.
So one more click, bingo. Now you've told the airplane to fly upward. That's good, that's step number one. The next thing we got to do is we got to take it out of loc into FMS. Now we give it guidance. Put you in loc mode. Now we got to go up and push nav,
Suspense, right?
bingo, and then with suspense. And throttle up. And before you do that, have a look, see how as soon as you hit suspend, next waypoint came in here as magenta. That's the next sequence that we're going to do. And then as you throttle up, it's going to go to the 4,600 and begin to climb again. And then with us being established, you can see we're now climbing towards 4,600. And if you would climb less and less and less, you can see how the 4,600 is being pushed and pushed and pushed further out until you hit it. It's not a hard spot on the ground. It just keeps being pushed.
Right.
But it's important to observe those four things. Tell the airplane to climb. Of course, you do that different in the airplane with throttles and whatnot. But vertical speed, nose up 1,000 feet a minute. In the airplane, you'd push go around, but we don't have a go around button since we don't have throttles here. Vertical speed, nose up, out of loc into FMS, nav, and suspend.
Yeah, okay. Okay. And you're saying when you go around, you actually...
The only thing we forgot, so remember we were talking about, go ahead and click V-NAV, or excuse me, altitude select, because we were landing, so we discussed not setting go around altitude, so
Oh, sorry, yes, that's right.
the airplane climbed to 4,200 feet and then it just kept going at 4,200
Right,
feet.
I see.
So there we go. With that, I'll leave it and I'll turn the camera off, and that completes today's lesson. All right, what I'd like for you to do is come on right to a heading of 180. I'll make that 150. And just follow the bars. It is now because it's me that didn't set in here all the stuff, so don't worry about it. We're descending down to, we'll just call it 4,200 back to minimums. Essentially, you're going to get vectors to the approach.
Right.
And if you want to look where you are, you can have a look over there. And this is should be starting to look familiar with you.
Right, yeah, coming down towards this way to be expecting that.
Okay, come right to a heading of 160.
60. What's the difference between these two indications here?
That's the trend on the inside. You just follow
What is
the.
trend on the inside?
Yeah.
So it's a little higher than what I'm at.
So now,
Okay.
go ahead and come right to start a right turn to 220.
Okay, I turn to 220.
Just yeah, keep turning right to 220. I'm frantically trying to get there. You go, sequenced in to your localizer, and you're now following the localizer. Bingo, captured. Pitch up a little bit. There you go. Small corrections. Looking good. That's a manual flying, if I've ever seen one. But shows that you can do and practice that. Now you're on the localizer on the glide slope. And obviously you can hand fly this if you wish to. It's your choice. What I'm going to do is just to make life a little bit easier on you. Keep flying, is I'm just going to throttle back to make everything a little bit less sensitive on you. There you go. So essentially now you're flying it on the localizer, on the glide slope, hand flying it all the way in. Here's 1,000 feet to your minimums. Looking good there, amigo. Your first hand-flown instrument approach in the Lear 70.
Yes, sir.
That is just really, really neat how that works out. See how your scan is starting to settle down, and I know the airplane is somewhat stable, but anyway,
Right, yeah, that's helpful.
it gets you right back into the swing of things where you have...
500.
Okay. And it's going to start yapping at us here again.
Too low.
400.
What I'd like you to
Too
do
low. Dear.
is take it down to about 4,000 feet, Marvin, and then just
Too
level
low.
out. I'll
Yeah.
get you started, and we'll take a look at some of the
Too low. Dear.
other things that we're going to see. Actually, just go ahead and take
Too
it and
low.
land it.
Dear.
When you're down on the runway, you just go ahead
Too
and
low. Dear.
Bring the power back.
Too low. Dear.
yeah, it looks like we're just driving in the ground out there because
Too low.
you're just a
Dear.
couple hundred feet. See how you drifted below the
Oh, okay.
bars?
Too
There you go.
low.
That's fine.
Dear.
I mean,
That's right.
That gets you a feeling of really what's going on here. Glide slope's
Too
coming
low,
back alive.
dear. Too low, dear.
How's that? Why did it go right through?
Oh, you just didn't follow the bars.
Too low,
So you're
dear.
at 4,200 feet.
Oh, so now I'm a little higher.
Yeah, that's okay.
Too low, dear.
So just keep tracking down and go ahead and throttle to idle.
Too low, dear.
Bingo.